Beautiful. All right, everybody. I'm Mr. Andrew Whipple with the Leviathan Network, and we've got a very special live stream for you today. I'm graced by the presence of the mighty Chris Park.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like every time I talk to you, whether it's on a live stream or a podcast, I always introduce you with some ridiculous title.
Yes, I've noticed that.
I don't know why that happens. I apologize.
It's fine. Leaves me a little bit not knowing what to say, but hey, I'll take it, huh?
Yes, agreed. So, BIONIC DUES, it's launch day. You gotta be excited.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's anytime. There's a good chance it may actually launch while we're on this stream. So.
Oh sure, right. I'm very happy to be able to show this game off. Thank you for the opportunity to do that. Man, yeah. So why don't we jump in here? But first, you guys have made a really big deal about this title song.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think this is one of Pablo's best.
So who is singing exactly? Do any of your games? I don't recall any of them actually have lyrics like this.
Actually, the last we started it with Valley 2, and then with that one was in English. That's actually Hunter, Pablo's wife, in both of these games. She's doing the lyrics for those.
Huh.
And then Pablo sings the music, the title music for both Skyward Collapse and Nihon Numera. But in those particular games, Skyward Collapse, the lyrics are in Old Norse, and in Nihon Numera, they're in Japanese. So with it being in a foreign language like that, a lot of people don't realize they're actually vocals. They think it's just like, I mean, they think it's singing, but just kind of nonsense. So it's kind of funny.
That is sort of funny, but in any case, like this is the one that definitely sort of captured me when I was going through the settings. I always do that with any of the games. Just like, wow, like they actually took some real effort with this thing. It's pretty freaking cool. Yeah.
We always put in the effort. It's just a matter of how they turn out, huh?
Yeah, very true. All right, so this game, you've taken a lot from the games of your past, like a Valley 2 that you just mentioned. We'll see that as we progress here in the game. But walk us through here about maybe choosing your different bots, your exos as you call them.
So with this, it's part of where the idea for this came from is kind of like Final Fantasy 1, where you could create these, parties of kind of archetypical characters, and you could do any sort of mixing matching you wanted to. You can create the most pathetic roster of 4 science guys if you want to, and there's actually an achievement for winning that way. I really want to see somebody do that. It's that would be incredibly tough, but so there's all these sort of challenges you can make, and there's a whole lot of kind of average builds that you can put that particularly play to a given play style. But there's 6 overall classes. You can mix and match them with duplicates or all being unique, however you want to do. And as you play, you get to these Bahamut moments, these Bahamut missions where you upgrade a specific class. And so you go from the regular assaults to the epic assaults, the regular ninjas to the epic ninjas, and they get some new weaponry, they get upgraded stats, and the new weaponry in particular tends to be unlocking some new ways to play a lot of times.
Well, I noticed that with the engineers that you can pick too, and you say openly too, if you've never played a game like this before, I feel like it's going to get extremely deep, and we'll see as soon as we jump in. You already know, having played this game for a while and created it. But you start off with the assault bot, the ninja, science, and the siege. But you have a bunch of other things that you can choose. I think it's pretty cool that someone like Genji, as soon as you choose them, it changes all of the exos into epic, and they look extremely different. It's pretty great.
Those are the epic versions that normally you would unlock through the Bahamut missions, but he doesn't have to go through the Bahamut missions. He just gets the epics from the start, and that's that. So that makes the early game easier, and it makes it so you don't have to hunt down the Bahamut missions on the map, but you're foregoing whatever the other benefits are from the other various characters. And so each pilot, of which there are, I think, six, each pilot has a different special ability, and they're all really powerful and game-changing. But whichever one you choose, you're not choosing the other one, so there's kind of this opportunity cost there. So with Emma, for instance, her ability only sounds so exciting, but what it basically lets you do is really customize your characters through the black market shop to a really heavy degree. She gets way more options and some higher quality options of getting exactly the loot that she wants. And in a game where you're really customizing your mechs, basically,
right?
That's a big deal, and it makes the shop into a much more powerful tool in her hands.
Yeah, I've tried her for a little bit, and then I also, not just because it was on the default, but it seemed like Meg was pretty good. Picking up, as you use an example here, a Mark IV, it actually has stats like the Mark VI, so it makes items that you find if you're a loot whore a lot better than what you typically find.
Absolutely, and that makes her a really good starting character in particular. I mean, she's good even for experienced players as well, but it makes her a really good kind of all-around starting character, which is nice. And Axis is super powerful because not only can you see more of the map, which makes her a better scout, but it lets her kind of hop over missions, which means that if there's some stuff in your way that you don't want to do, a lot of times you might have to kind of go through that mission to get to the missions you really want, whereas she doesn't necessarily have to do that. She can just kind of hop over the ones that she doesn't want to do and get to the ones that are really, the meat and potatoes.
Right. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I was about to say, we'll see here when we go to the world map. It can be super important. You think that, I'd rather have more loot or more powerful abilities, but sometimes you can get put in, to use the old saying, rock in a serious hard place where you have to choose which mission won't kill you hardest.
Exactly. And Tuck, he's one of the ones that's a bit he's a bit more advanced, he's a bit more specialized, and he kind of lets you see what's going on more in a given mission, where the objectives are and so forth, and that can be really helpful if you're worried about you've got a limited amount of health and you're trying to make it to the exit as quickly as possible, or you want to really get as much loot as you can on the way to the exit without taking a bunch of wrong turns. And so that can be really helpful, and a number of people really like him. He's not my favorite, but a number of players really seem to like him a lot.
And we've got the last one there, Ray.
And he's one that he kind of gives you mulligans, basically, where on the higher difficulties in particular, you get more loot for each exo that you have surviving at the end of a mission. So if you have all 4 exos left, then you get 4 pieces of loot. If you've only got 1 left, you just scrape through on the skin of your teeth. You only get 1 piece of loot. With Ray, you get a couple of mulligans there. So if you're hitting, losing an exo or 2, not only do they come back to life and you've got full ammo, full health again on the ones that the first 2 that died, but you also are getting more loot at the end despite having lost an exo or 2. You don't get 6 pieces of loot if you don't lose any, but if you lose 1 or 2, then you still get the 4 pieces of loot.
Interesting. Who do you usually see maybe in your focus tests, or who do you expect that people are going to pick the most? Maybe like Meg to begin with?
I think a lot of people pick Meg just because she's the default, early on in. but there's not been any one commander that nobody picks. I mean, a lot of people really like Axis. You get a lot of people, well, you get a certain subset of people that really like Emma as well. There's some people that are just like, I don't care about the store, I'm not going to play that. I really focus on the looting and the hacking. And, you know, with those people, they just don't care about Emma. You get some people that just really like Tuck because they hate having to explore quite to the degree that you do if you don't have Tuck. So, I mean, we actually, during the alpha, we had swapped out 2 of the character abilities because they just weren't being used as much as the others. And there was actually Tuck and Meg. And we actually then buffed Raze as well during the alpha because they were seeing less use than the others. But we've hit a point for the last few weeks where, you know, really all of them seem to get quite a bit of use. So that's been good.
Interesting. Well, I think for the purposes of showing this off, I think we should probably choose Axis just so we can get a nice variety of missions just down so we can talk about those. And then probably your basic setup, unless you have a better suggestion. I think all 4 of these give a nice solid taste of what you kind of need and want in a mission.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good solid baseline.
All right. So why don't we do this here? You guys are also quite great at explain. Hey, I'm not trying to garner praise from you here, Chris. All right, but you guys are fantastic at explaining how your games work. You do it in, I'd say, excessive fashion because you want people to know. Like, you might hit them with just a whole bunch of text, but you do yourself a disservice if you don't read it or understand.
It's one of those things that we battle with some players getting turned off, or reviewers getting turned off by an excessive amount of text. I think that with BIONIC in particular, I think BIONIC and Valley 2, we really hit the sweet spot there. And for its genre, I think AI War actually was done up really well. With Skyward Collapse, we had some complaints on that, but it's a per game sort of decision as to how exactly we go about trying to convey what needs to be conveyed. But BIONIC is fortunately fairly accessible in terms of most people know kind of vaguely how a roguelike-ish game works, so that helps.
Yeah, I had described it to my colleagues and a few of my friends as a roguelike light, or light roguelike, because you've got those elements in there. Yeah,
and that's something that we really distinguish is it being a roguelite rather than a full roguelike, because it's kind of like Dungeons of Dreadmore as a roguelite, and some of these other ones where you're not going to run into a situation in the first dungeon where it just kicks your teeth in and says, haha, you lose, bye-bye. And you can play with a quite hardcore sort of difficulty, and you can play with Iron Man mode where you can't save scum and stuff like that, but it's not intentionally going out of its way to just wreck you. There is a misery difficulty where if you start hacking these certain terminals, it will more often than not kind of wreck you some, and you want to kind of learn what terminals do what. And the game remembers what kind of terminals do what, so you don't have to. So you have to play the memory game that a lot of roguelikes make you do. But the ratio of nasty stuff that you don't want to hack and good stuff that is a benefit for you shifts depending on the difficulty level. So you can make it quite unpleasant on yourself, or just a breeze where you just have fun. It is what we kind of call bubble wrap popping fun, where you just go through and
bubble wrap popping fun. That's great. And
just go through and just pop some bubbles, just shoot some guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of terminals, it's funny because last night when I was trying this, one of my playthroughs, I hacked a terminal and it exploded and killed a large chunk of an area, including one of my exos. So that was not great.
That's a good example of one of the mean effects. There's 12 overall effects in each game, and they're randomly rolled as to which terminals have what effects, and not all effects are in each game. And these are basically equivalent to the potions in most roguelikes. And the ratio of nice, very nice, mean, and very mean is, again, like I said, different on different difficulties. And one you're referring to, I'm not sure if that's mean or very mean. I suspect it's mean. But the...
Well, Chris, I can confirm it's mean, all right?
Well, it's just a matter of if it's very mean or mean. We're definitely sure it's at least mean. But there is a benefit to that sometimes. I mean, maybe you wanted to explode the room. You know, your guy's like almost no health, and you want to explode the room so your next guy can make it through. I mean, and that's one of the cool things is you can find a use for that sometimes.
So we're looking at the customization right now, just before we talk about the world map and get in there. First off, if anybody out there has not played an Arcen game, you'd notice that the art style is rather good. You guys employed Heavy Cat, if I remember correctly, for Valley 2, and I'm assuming that they stayed with you on this game as well.
Nope, we don't work with them anymore.
Oh.
This is all done in-house.
Very nice. Well, I really appreciate the visuals, and it does look very similar to what you guys had done in the past. I mean, with Valley 2 anyway. That's some skill, Chris.
Yeah, thanks. I can't take credit, but Blue and Catherine, who've done the bulk of the art here, have done a really good job, and we've had a couple of contractors who did some sketch work for us as well. Charity did some really good sketch work, and we've had a couple of other guys that did some sketch work for us, and turned out really well.
Well, I mean, attention to detail. This is some of the stuff that I pay attention to when I play a game. I think you and I have similar tastes when it comes to old school RPGs. I believe that we both share a certain love for Final Fantasy VI. I do love my Final Fantasy Tactics as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, games of that nature. And I think what I loved about those games too was the attention to detail in a lot of ways on the models, and this is head and shoulders above anything like that from a long time ago. But you're just scrolling through the exos, everything has just such a different look and feel, and you can really tell that all this is handcrafted. All the items that I'm rifling through up on the top, like the science laser rifle, the pistol, the welding laser, the machine gun, I mean, it's all so different, and it gives the game another personality, and I do appreciate that.
Thanks. Final Fantasy Tactics was definitely one of my inspirations coming into this. Excuse me, I have a bit of a cold, so I have to mute myself occasionally to cough.
Fair enough.
But Final Fantasy Tactics was definitely one of the inspirations for this in terms of wanting to make it so that positionality matters, you know, where you are on the map versus where your enemies are. And so having the different sort of guns with different sorts of damage patterns in terms of you know, where they strike the floor with different AoE type effects is something that I felt like was really important, and that was something that Final Fantasy Tactics did really well, and I was really pleased to be able to kind of carry that on over here.
Which is great. So I won't bore everybody with just going through this, but if you'd like to briefly talk about, we'll see the customization after a couple of missions when we get some more items, but it looks like every single item, your shields, the reactors, propulsion, the computer, it's all a little bit different, but the stats, I think somebody that's new coming into this, Chris, might feel a bit overwhelmed by all the statistics because they don't know what sensor range is. They don't know. Like, maybe you could explain what the sensor range, power balance, some of the stats that we're seeing here before we get into a mission.
Sure, and you can hover over anything in order to get an explanation of it. So if you, on the left there in the scroll bar, in the main not in the part picker, but in the main view here. You can hover over this, and it gives you detailed explanations of what everything is. And it's pretty straightforward once you know what it is. It's not like, oh, you've got an evade %, and that has an effect of, you divide it by 10 and then add 20, and then you've got that was something that always, speaking of Final Fantasy VI, which is one of my, that's one of my favorite games of all time, is that and Chrono Trigger at the very top for me. But some of those stats, I have no idea what they do. But these are all very concrete. With the attack power is pretty straightforward. How much damage you do. The attack range, again, pretty straightforward, but very important, because being able to fire from range without enemies approaching you is really important. And enemies get more range as the game progresses, so your tactics get more and more tricky as you play longer. Then you've got ammo capacity, which for some of you have some really ultra powerful low ammo weapons that are really important. And power is kind of like your basically it's your budget. And so in your reactor, you can put in new power generating parts, and in some of your other related systems like shields and propulsion, there are some parts that give you a secondary bonus of more power, or you can put in an auxiliary reactor in a different part. But the thing is, there's an opportunity cost to whatever you do. When you put an auxiliary reactor in your propulsion, that's that much less, say, stealth or trap skill, evasion, whatever that you can have there. So there's always this kind of give and take between each type of stat that you're putting in there. And most stats are primarily granted from a specific subsystem, but then they can be secondary effects on parts, usually, the more rare or uncommon or epic or legendary type parts. The standard mix, from most modern procedural loot games. Most of those higher quality type of parts will give you secondary bonuses that might be from a completely different subsystem, which can be useful.
I know that I can't wait to test out some of these other exos. I haven't done the Brawler yet, and I've just been so interested in... Well, I've messed around with sentry turrets and mines, the virus abilities. I haven't gotten anything to utilize that ability yet, and I know it says that you have to get close. I just think it'd be kind of cool to make that infectious brawler just get close. He's like a tank, he could just take you out, or he can make you one of his dudes.
The ninja is really good for the virus too, because stealth plus virus is a really, really good combo, because you have to get, it's a touch range sort of a skill, the virus is, so you have to get right next to the dude, and if you're doing that while taking fire, that's not really the best. And so typically what people will do is go into stealth mode, sneak up on somebody, virus them, that dude then starts shooting everybody else, and then stealth a little bit away again, let him do some of his stuff while you're still stealth, and pop out of stealth and start helping him out, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we'll show that off here in just a second. So I think that what we're going to do for the first mission, we'll go into the parts fab, and I think that's a nice way to start things off. They're not usually that difficult, and we can get a little more extra parts, so we can experiment with that stuff. You can tell me how wrong I'm outfitting my exos.
There's really no wrong way to do it, especially early in the game. And that's one of the cool things, is that you can play up various different strategies. And you're on normal mode, so it's reasonably forgiving.
Well, I did run into a part where I knocked down a wall, a destructible wall, and there was about 6 of those, or were they the buggy random missile launchers? Yeah, the bugger bots.
Blunderbots. Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, those guys will wreck you pretty fast if you're not careful.
I mean,
that's one place where if you have some stealth, then it's okay, it's time for me to sneak away for a minute.
Yup. Yep, that's for sure. All right, so just before we jump in here, I did forget to say that I love the look of this entire city, this whole map. It's huge. This is randomly generated too, for the people who are wondering. That is, you did the same thing in Valley too. So every playthrough is truly going to be different. How important was that for you guys to do?
Well, serial replay is something that I find is, it's important to me as a player. I mean, it's not always possible with every game, but with a roguelike, come on, that's really a big part of it. And knowing exactly where something is and just kind of going through the motions that gets boring fast. So, with this, the layout of the map is the same in terms of where the connections and where the nodes are, but which nodes are what is always different, and where you start is always different. And so finding your way through the city and finding what's important and where it is always really different, which is, I love that.
As do I. All right, so we're in our first mission. On the left side here, you can switch to any XO. Everyone has their individual moves, so we see the assault bot with the laser rifle. And it's great when you actually mouse over it. I love how you guys paid attention to detail. Again, you show their attack range, so you physically can see it. The line of sight as well, where it can go. All the statistics that you really need to worry about. This is the kind of stuff that you need for a turn-based / action strategy game.
Thanks. Yeah, we've had a lot of help from our community, really coming up with, every last everything they could possibly want. So it's been a really successful private alpha for us.
So you don't have to click anywhere. Let's just walk around. All right, so for the people who, again, have not seen how this game works, as soon as now correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, as soon as we cross over here, we're going to find a couple of bots. When you see them, that's when you can't really move around freely. You still can, but you take turns. So every time that you move or you shoot, they automatically take a turn as well.
Yeah, it's basically like any roguelike, The difference here is that those guys, they're just showing up as kind of the yellow wireframe. Oh, all right, now he's got a red border. He saw you. So now he's alert and after you. And so now it works like any roguelike. You act, he acts, vice versa. When there's a crowd of them, you act, and 6 of them act, and that can be kind of a problem. But
yes, it can be. And ammo is a big deal too. You guys, obviously, again, going back to the roguelike genre that you had just mentioned, it's got to be pretty important to kind of balance how many enemies you have, the amount of ammo that you have to deal with as well. That could be, I feel like that's a real big challenge, because you could put some players in a horrible situation. Or do you think it's really up to them to decide?
It really is something that early in there's a progression as the days go on, each mission that you do, and early in it's fairly tame. You're one-shotting most of these guys with your machine gun or your laser rifle, and that's not the end of the world. So you're really not going to be hurting for ammo here. But once it starts coming on, today, 40 or 35 or something like that, suddenly, whether or not you've kitted yourself out with enough ammo versus enough firepower starts to matter. And it starts, it's kind of like cooking a lobster, it's happening gradually, so you don't even really notice it, and you're like, oh, I feel a little short on ammo lately. Maybe I better put a little bit more ammo in here. Man, it's taking like 3 shots to shoot these guys. Maybe I like a little more attack power. And so there's time for you to just naturally adjust. You don't have to be like, oh God, suddenly everything takes 5 shots, I'm dead. It's not this sudden event. It's this kind of natural, basically learning curve, essentially. And early on in the game, you can kind of fly through the missions a lot quicker and make a lot more decisions about how you're going to upgrade yourself later.
And speaking of sticky situations, this is so, it doesn't really scare me at all, as you know, but this can be, especially later on, one of those very, very precarious situations because, well, you've got 5 robots just sitting in here, and some of them could be very dangerous with a lot of health. So sometimes you want to move away, or
yeah, and you can check their ranges too. If you hold, I think it's control,
is it
and
control?
then mouse over them.
Yes.
Then you can and mouse over the enemies while holding control, and now you can see where they can shoot. So that first guy can get you, but those later guys can't. And the first guy, only the first guy can even get you there. So the others are all going to move up the next time you shoot. So it's really going to be a tricky thing. You're science guy at the moment, which is really
not good.
Unfortunate, yeah. So you've got 15 stealth moves left. You may want to stealth, get away a little bit, and switch to probably your assault. And then as they start coming around the corner, you'll probably have enough firepower to just blast them.
That's right.
And you can see how they glow red now, and they're actually like looking at you and so forth. And so, and you can hit spacebar to give them a turn without yourself moving, which can be pretty useful.
See, now this is really nice because, so we've got the special ability, the grenade launcher, limited ammo. Siege has the most powerful, being the rocket launcher with a huge attack range. Before we jumped into this mission, I added a couple of parts that increased its splash range, which I always found to be the most effective. So why don't we just jump up here and I'll make these things look dumb.
And the Batbot has some faulty propulsion, so he actually moved backwards instead of forwards. And various of the bots have various either buffs or bugs, which it can be really hilarious. Some of the stuff they say, this GPS is defective.
Yes, yes, I've noticed that. So you have comedy in here. I think when just before I hung it up last night, I think one of them said, "Why was I programmed to feel?"
Why was I programmed to feel pain? Yeah, that's one of my favorites. And he dies. It's just like, why indeed? And so
I'm gonna turn down the volume here just a little bit. Music's great. Music is fantastic. All right, that should probably do it. Leave it on 15. All right. Yeah, so I also found too that you never know. I mean, I could just fly through this mission if I want to, but we're showing the game off. You wanna try and keep some more of your laser rifle or your grenade launcher active because you never know what you're gonna run into.
Each mission has a mix of 5 different bots, primary bot types, and then there are these kind of special teams bots that often buff other bots or have special mean things. And there's a number of different types of them that will show up. And the 5 random bot types are randomized per level, and that can make some pretty different tactical situations where you're like, oh man, I haven't seen this combination of bots before. This is crazy. And out of the 40 some odd different types of bots there, that makes it so there's like 115,000 different possible combinations or something like that. So it's just, you get this ridiculous variety. And I really like having the subsets of bots rather than it just being this one big soup of every type of bot in every mission, because that gets really samey.
Yeah, here we go. I was just trying to zoom out just so we can see here. Yeah, there's obviously a ton of different things that you can do. And there we go. So an explosive rune. So you guys have these things just littered around as well. They can make for an interesting mix. Usually I've found, if you have a fuel tank or something explosive nearby, you've got a lot of enemies that are coming around. It's usually a telltale sign.
Right. And you can, with the explosive runes, one of the nice things to do with them is if you, at this point, you can whistle and wake up those bots, and then let them get a little bit closer, hit spacebar a couple of times, then just when they're in position, lob a grenade onto the nearest explosive rune, and then watch the fireworks. Just with one piece of ammo, you take out a bunch of them. And so, you can use this against themselves to, boom, there you go, to use minimal ammo and just kind of use the environment to do that. And see, another thing you could do, you can kill the mines, but you could also back up, let that guy chase you, and then he'll take out the mine for you and probably die in the process. And, you can do it either way. It really just depends on what's going on at the time. And see, these guys here, they're around the corner. If you approach the corner there, that's of questionable wisdom. You could use a grenade launcher to hit the bat bot, and he just came around the corner anyway, and he's the guy with the faulty GPS. And now you've alerted the other two guys because you shot him.
Mm-hmm.
And but you could also whistle if there was nothing to shoot. So it really depends. You may or may not wish to approach blind corners, even if your sensors are letting you see around. And you asked earlier about what are the sensors? Those are the ability to see into the wireframe areas around corners that aren't in your line of sight.
Which is why, was it Tucker? He's pretty useful because you can see the objectives and kind of have an idea of where you want to go just right from the beginning.
Right.
Oh, yeah, so see, we've got another bat bot here. It looks like I just moused over him. His shields are down. It looks like he probably ran over a mine.
Could be. He may have been caught in the splash of your grenade launcher. I'm not sure if that's the same one. I wasn't paying careful attention.
Alright, I'm going to back up a little bit. Yeah, these guys, they're being a little smart. Let's see, we'll wait and see.
See, it's funny because with the, quote, glitches in some of their AI, like the Batbots, they, have that random movement pattern because of their, quote, faulty GPS. And so that makes it so they can be really challenging. They don't just charge you like something else. So it makes this weirdo, tactical situation where there's this, ammo bot down to the south, and then you got these bat bots up in the north, and it's like, well, you can't just call them around the corner like you might normally do. You've got this different tactical situation. So that was something that was really fun to design, thinking up not only, smart behaviors for the bots, but also funny but tactically varied, stupid behaviors for them that actually turn out to be an asset for them.
Oh goodness! All right, so here we go again. We've just got a dumb bot and a couple of ammo bots. Yeah.
You can shoot the doors.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I usually try to. All right, that was just a stupid move, but we're gonna back up just a little bit, and why not? We could show off the ninja a little bit here. Oh wait. Let's see, we'll get rid of the stealth. Siege, perfect. Yeah, I love the feel of each of the exos. You guys, I feel like if you don't have a very specific feeling to every character, then you're just gonna pick a couple of the guys that work for you, and you're just really not going to care that much. But it's important to be able to unlock these terminals, to unlock certain doors, and that's why you kind of want a science bot with you, even if it's not that good at attacking stuff. But I feel that with the items that you find, oh goodness, with the items that you find, you could actually make it into a better fighter.
Yeah, and bear in mind also, all of these have an epic version. And so when you upgrade your science guy to the epic science guy, he gets a freaking chain gun, and it's an awesome weapon. It only has so much ammo.
Chain gun.
Mm-hmm. And he's the only guy who gets the chain gun, and that can be really useful. So suddenly your science guy is not so pathetic as a combatant. Okay, so now whistle. Let them come and take out that mine for you. and set up some traps around here. And of course, if you had mine layer ability, or if you had, sentry turrets or whatever, you could lay quite a trap for them.
Yup, which I definitely wish I could. And the ninja is the only one that can actually attack while it's still stealth, and it has that little splash damage with the welding laser too, which is really nice.
He gets the volatizer when he gets the epic version too, which is another really fun one.
That sounds brutal.
Yeah, it makes these kinds of rings of fire, which can be quite intimidating. The siege guy, he gets the plasma siege cannon later on, and goodness, that thing, if you think the rocket launcher has a big AoE, you haven't seen anything with the plasma siege cannon. It has like no ammo, but that's one place where you can pump in more ammo and pump in more AoE. And there were some people at one point who had exploded the entire level with one shot.
What?
We actually had to make some balance shifts with that. But yeah, I mean, it's that big of AoE for that thing. It's pretty crazy.
So I'll just use the stealth here, even though I don't really need to, just to show that I can move right up to this guy if I want to, and I can attack without fear of it really doing too much. Now, this is interesting to me too, because there's a computer terminal right here, and I don't want to destroy it. Like, that would be a horrible move.
It's up to you. It depends on if it's a good computer terminal or not. And
so how do you tell?
Well, if you hover over it, you can see that we don't actually know yet. And so if you hack it once, then you'll find out. It'll do whatever it's going to do. It may be good, it may be bad, it may be very bad, it may be very good. But then the next time you run into one of these, there's 12 different types of computer terminal. And the next time you run into one of these specific ones, it'll remember. You don't have to remember, oh, the yellow one with the 5 points does X. When you run into it, it's like, okay, now it says, oh, remember, this is the one that kills you immediately, or whatever it is. So that enhances your exo attack range for the remainder of this mission. And so that was a good one. And so now this particular exo, I guess it was the science guy that you did at the time, the science guy is now having particular extra range. Later missions, you could upgrade your other exos to have some hacking skill. And so if you want to have like, insane range on your siege guy, or if you had a brawler and you wanted to have like a sniper shotgun, which you can build, you can switch to the brawler and have him hack that, which you now know what it is. It's like, all right, brawler with some range.
Yeah. Brawler with some range, yeah. I love that customization. Did you ever play, what are they called again? Front Mission. Like Front Missions, any of them?
I never did. I've heard good things, but I never did play that one.
Yeah, very good things. I never played like the original, but Front Mission 4 on the PS2 was a lot of fun. It reminds me of how you guys sort of have the customization set up. It's one of my old favorites too, like Vanguard Bandits. That was a lot of fun. Alright, let's see. I also have opened a door before where I just explode, which is a good thing. Just kidding.
Fortunately, the locked doors are usually pretty safe. There's a lot of loot containers in them. So that's good. You got a green one, which means that was an uncommon, which is nice.
Very nice. Alright, so here they all come. Gotta be a little careful. There we go. That's all I needed. Watch for those bat bots. Aha, look at that! And we found the parts fabricator.
Aha, nice.
Yeah, right there. Now, of course, you have the option to get rid of that. You do have the option to look at the rest of the level, maybe get a couple of more pieces of loot, but we're just going to go ahead and leave so we can claim this prize and take a look at everything else. Rare parts of so many shapes and sizes, it makes me giddy! Exit the level successfully to claim this. Yeah, I like how I like how satirical you guys are when it comes to explaining what obvious things are. minds, you should totally step on these.
We have 3 different people who write humor, and we all have very different types of humor. And Keith Lamoth, who's the my co-programmer and designer on this, he writes the really sarcastic stuff like that. I love it. I write some of the more various other types of humor, and then some of the things like why was I programmed to feel pain. The guy that did our voice acting, came up with that one. I was just about to die laughing at that.
It is pretty fantastic. I played, last year, like Orcs Must Die 2, fun little tower defense game where you just kill orcs and lay down traps. One of them says, I'm allergic to fire. It's just it's things like that really make me appreciative. All right, so we're done with the mission. So here's all the loot. Now you were saying if I lost a couple of exos, which that loot count would actually go down.
Right. So since this was a parts fabricator mission, you get double the loot that you normally would, and it's all, I think, uncommon or better, which is different from other missions can be. And so in this particular case, since you had 4 exos, you got 8 different pieces. If you'd had 3, you would have gotten 6, and so on.
Yeah, very nice. All right, so why don't we go ahead and jump in here. Also, before we go into the next mission to explore that, we'll look at more of the customization, but we did forget to talk about, the obvious goal of this game, the final battle, the stuff that the robot manufacturing, and of course the right side of the screen. I love how you guys actually have that set up. That's awesome. It's so much fun to just look over and see like the little robots just dangling around, doing their little animation. These are the guys that you have to worry about. Like, we need to whittle this number down.
Yeah, and that literally is the final army. The bottom 2 are bosses, and you won't run into those anywhere except the final battle or in assassination missions, where you can go and literally kill those guys. And there are Lion's Den missions where you can go and kill the non-boss guys. And so if you don't want to have too many guys hanging around at the end of the game, then you can go in and kill them early, so you don't have to fight them all at once at the end. And the ones that you're killing are literally the ones you would find at the end of the game. So as you're playing, you'll see that number go down. And every turn, or after every mission, you'll see the number of guys over there, increase, and the bots will level up in kind of a randomized fashion as to which ones level up each time as well. And so depending on what each campaign that you have, different bots will be more or less threatening. And the ones that are there on the right hand side are of course randomized as well, and they tend to be particularly threatening because they get some bonus levels every certain number of turns. It depends on the difficulty level as to precisely how many turns between a bonus level they get. But
it's just an interesting idea. I don't think I've played a game where you know exactly what you're going to be fighting at the end of the game. And I know a couple of the people that enjoy these games. They hate time limits, but as we were discussing, it aids the replayability in a lot of ways, because every time that you start a brand new game of BIONIC DUES, the map's going to be different. Maybe the guys that you bring in are going to be different. It's a lot like, have you played FTL?
I've seen it, and I have it, and I keep meaning to play it. I haven't had time.
Well, you would really appreciate that game, Chris. You have to replay it a lot, and that game is predicated on the fact that you're going to fail, and
right.
you're going to learn why you failed, and next time maybe you won't make such a horrible decision. Maybe you really shouldn't have gone into that space station with the giant spiders. That's just how it goes. All right, but let's go into customization.
I wouldn't really categorize it as a time limit. I mean, it certainly could be looked at that way, particularly because we say days. That makes it seem like, okay, time limit. But if you think about a traditional roguelike, a number of them are like, okay, there's 100 floors, you have to get down to the bottom floor and kill somebody, Satan, whatever, and then you have to make 100 floors back up, right? Well, that's sometimes the goal. And you could think of that in kind of terms of a time limit of you've got 100 times 2 floors, or maybe just 100 down, maybe 100, up and back. And that's your time limit. You have a certain amount of space to traverse. each mission in Bionic Dues is really like a floor in a traditional roguelike, and so you wind up with kind of choose your own floors as you go. There's 120 possible missions. You cannot do them all, and that creates opportunity costs. So you say, well, I'm going to do this mission but not that mission, and therefore I'm getting this but I'm foregoing that. And that's, again, something very similar to, like, for instance, AI War, where you have to really pick and choose what it is you want to do. And Valley 2 has some of that in the overworld map as well. And that's a theme that I really like, where you get to make interesting decisions that affect you for a long period of time. And you brought up, being able to see what's at the end and, react to that. That's something where I feel like you can't really make interesting decisions if you don't know what you're deciding on. If it's you don't know what you're preparing for, then I don't know, do whatever.
True.
And so being able to see what's coming and react to that, and even affect what's coming preemptively, and either by weakening them or strengthening yourself, makes it so that you're really in this kind of back and forth arms race until the final showdown, and then you win or you lose. And you might lose prior to that, of course.
You would, yes. Yeah, you definitely will more than likely lose. I mean, depending. I don't think it. I just don't think it's. I don't think it's a bad thing to fail, and I think that's what I appreciate from games like this, Chris, where everything isn't really spoon-fed to you, but it is at the same time. All the information you need to know is right there in front of you, but it just takes practice. You're not going to innately be the greatest exopilot ever your first time through this game. I mean, I know the stats and some of the things that I'm doing, but that doesn't mean that I'm making all the necessary decisions when it comes to mission types, because I haven't done them all yet. What would you go to next? Should I can skip ahead. Like, I'm not going to purposely pick a blockade. Maybe the first time that I played this game, I ignored what you wrote and said, sure, why not? Let's try it out. But that's not the case.
Right. And so, choosing the next mission is something that really depends both on what you want directly out of it, and on what is behind it, and on what you suspect might lead you into the larger map. So there's really three things going on there. Do I directly want what this mission gets me? Well, and I guess also, do I think I can win it? And two, is there something behind it that I want? And three, even if there's nothing behind it that I want, does this let me out into a wider swath of the map where there might be a bunch of stuff that I want? And so the decision making there is, at least 3-4-fold. And you're going to get something, pretty useful out of every mission, but some are more equal than others, I guess.
No kidding. I see. I'm in a little bit of trouble here.
The blunderbot is really what you need to worry about there.
Yes. So what I'm going to try and do is, just for the moment, I'm going to stealth away. Oh, but I made a bad decision because they attacked the human cryopod, which is not what I wanted to happen, because none of my abilities are going to kill that thing in one shot. So that's what I really need to be worried about at this point. So why don't... Yeah, I'll just attack this guy. Hit him to disable. Switch to laser beam. Yeah, his range screwed him up right there, so not such a bad decision.
Nice.
Yes, alright, but now why don't we're going to need to get in there, because I'm a little worried about, let's see, Tiger bots, that's fine. Yeah, the blunderbots. Looks like there's at least just one left. So why don't we go down there?
One that's kind of hiding. Oh, this is a bat bot. You're gonna want to be careful not to get them too pissed off at that cryopod down there. You in the hostage missions, how many exos you have at the end doesn't matter. It's how many cryopods in this particular case. So
right,
the more cryopods you have, the more loot you get.
Which he just killed himself.
And the cryopod.
And the cryopod, unfortunately. So I'm not really, it looks like, outfitted to... Oh, that was not a great move, but... Now, I have the virus. I don't know if you saw me equip that kind of stuff, so I've never actually used this before. Do I actually need to be directly on top of them?
You need to be right next to him, and then you look at him, and you can use the arrow keys to affect what direction your guy's facing. And that will let you virus him. Blunderbots are questionable allies because they have very little ammo and their aim is terrible.
And their aim is terrible, yeah.
So they're still potentially going to shoot you anyway, and they've only got like 2 shots. So
yep.
They'll shut down after they run out of ammo, and that's kind of it. And then, of course, the Batbot's not terribly useful to be virusing either because he's just wandering around off in the corner waiting for you to come have to deal with him.
So that ended up being beneficial to me right there. If you saw, I increased my area of effect range and I was just attacking ground.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to destroy him without much of a problem.
Right. Having a welding laser that is so much longer is pretty helpful.
Agreed. Alright, let's see if I can get this guy. We'll wait here.
And you can, you can switch the orientation of it as well.
Oh, you can, okay.
There's I think it's control will let you switch the orientation if you don't like the way that it's facing to start out with.
Yep, there it is. If you hold control and shift, it works. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to go stealth here.
The first shot of the blunderbots will always miss. The next one will be dead on.
Is that how it works?
Mm-hmm.
They do so much damage. Alright. That works for the moment. Alright, so we've already lost 2 cryopods, which is not a good thing. And, yep, see there's a blunderbot, and there's... Alright, so this is what we need to do. Take one from Chris's book of awesome. Let's go ahead and put a mine down. We'll whistle for these saps. Let's see what they do. And there goes one. Well, I mean, he got hurt. It was kind of the stupid one I didn't care about. Alright, so we'll switch to the ninja because the welding laser is like the greatest thing against these guys. We'll wait. And there it is. And that's the strategy I'm talking about. Like that thing would have died if I just went in there guns blazing. It's something that you can't do.
And you could, in later missions, you're going to have trouble taking down. It depends on how you upgrade your weapons. I should preface it with this. But you're going to have trouble taking down some of the enemy bots so quickly. And so you may need to rely more on stealth or sentry turrets or mines or something. And you could lay a couple of mines here, and whistle and have these guys come on over and have some pain. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I got a little worried. They missed the cryopod just barely.
Yeah.
Oh man, and why did he do that? He shot his own buddy. He just turned around.
Ooh.
180, and I guess that's just how it goes, right?
The blunderbots, yeah, that's one of those things. It makes them unpredictable, and it gives it that kind of random element. If they just all charged you, that's one of my favorite things about this game is giving them bugs like, okay, every other turn he's going to just be insane with his shooting.
Oh.
It makes it woo.
Should have done that. He said after the second one, it was dead on.
At least he's out of ammo now, although you're down a Exo. Although this is a good mission to be down an Exo since, it's the cryopods that are determining your loot.
Right, which is, yeah, so it's not as bad. Now, when you do lose somebody, though, how does that work? Do you have to pay certain credits to fix them up?
Everything in terms of ammo, in terms of your health, in terms of the amount of ability points you have, the aliveness of your exos, all that stuff gets reset between every mission. I hate having to go and rummage around for ammo or all that other sort of stuff. And so it's really a matter of the tactics of the moment and how you can finish one particular mission. The other thing I really hate is that incentive to ammo hoard. So if you've got some big awesome piece of ammo, having that incentive to just sit on it forever and never actually use it. Speaking again of Final Fantasy VI, yeah, you know where I'm going with this.
I do.
Yeah, you get stuff like the Red Fang or whatever, or some of the things that Shadow can throw, and I'm like, ooh, that's awesome. I'd better save that until it's really important. And then by the time I'm like, well, maybe I'll use that, it's completely obsolete. It's like, oh, all right, never mind.
Yeah, maybe I'll use that. That's exactly how it goes too.
Yeah, and so that's something that we managed to get around here because if you don't use it in a mission, it doesn't matter. You're just you're just gonna have it again in the next mission anyway. So if you've got a weapon with one awesome piece of ammo, you should still use it. At some point in the mission, you might save it until the end of the mission, worrying about, am I going to run into some really bad something? Or you might have a situation where you're like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and use it, and then you open a door and you're like, crap, I should have saved that.
Yep.
So you get it on a smaller scale, but not where you're between missions, which I think is important.
Agreed. The ninja is such a good exo to have in this mission. We've got 8 more guys, and as you can see, this is very dangerous. I've got several bat bots in here. We need to try something big. All right.
That would be the other factor in how exactly you determine which missions you should do is your loadout. If you don't have a ninja, you can do these, but hostage missions probably aren't the best choice if you have no ninjas. You know what I mean? Because these are the stealthiest missions.
Right.
And, if you don't have any science guys, then, the hacker missions are, not the best.
Alright, so we need to be really careful here. Let me get out of range. Pick a ninja. No, it's not. Oh, perfect! Yes, it worked! So, by utilizing the blunderbot's blunderness, or creating a blunder, he just killed his friends. Which I thought was brilliant.
Oh, yeah. Yep, there's always some luck of the draw with that, but, if you know when he's going to misfire and when he's not, then you can use that to your advantage. And, nice. Yeah. Oh, there went another crypod. The Batbot got it.
Yeah. So what determines whether they're going to actually kill the pod or not?
When they're alerted and the pod has been seen, then there is, I think it's a 10% chance that they'll choose to fire on it instead of you, unless you were stealthed, in which case they just chase the nearest pod. So that is one downside of the ninjas. Then they're like, well, I'm awake, and oh, cryopods, So yeah, and it took that guy a while to decide to fire on the cryopod enough to actually kill it. So.
Right. Okay. So let's see. What's his range here? Oh, it's not very good. So I could probably just switch to Siege Bot.
And he's got a kinetic burst weapon, so it's not AoE either.
Yeah. Oh God. No!
Oh.
See, that I went around the corner and I shouldn't have done that.
Down to science and ninja.
Alright, so he fired already, so I should be okay. But I will switch to the ninja, kill him, and then let's whistle, get him out.
So you can see on the left sidebar, for the hostage missions, it shows you how many bots you have left to kill, because you're basically trying to rescue the hostages, which means killing all the hostage takers. So at the moment you're down to 1. This is your last guy to kill. So you should. There you go. So now there's an exit somewhere or other. You can see that you've completed it, and it's turned green over there on the sidebar. And so now you're free to go, loot at your pleasure. And,
that's right.
And then the exit's up there in the north, I can see.
Oh, look at this. Yeah. Restore all the exos. Great. Alright, so there it is. Yeah, there's the exit, and that's another mission down. I guess it could have been a lot worse, but what we learned today is that Ninja's very good at taking down those blunderbots, try to use them against each other.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
But another day passes, and another day robot manufacturing increases.
Yeah, and you got 4 of the cryopods out of, I think, 8, so that's not too bad. And so you got some good loot there. Which means that, you got a reasonable amount of loot as if you'd done another kind of standard fare mission, but you didn't get the extra loot. So you kind of broke even, It's kind of a gamble with the hostage missions, and you
sure.
kind of broke even, out of that one.
Yep. I mean, it wasn't a complete loss. Now, how do you tell when the robots actually level up?
It shows you in the end of the in the mission results thing, and then also in the log up there in the top right, you can see which bots gain what levels at the end of each turn. So you can also see, there's new stock in the city store. You're up to 377 credits, which is not a whole lot, but you're getting there. And if you go into the store, you can actually, if you see something you like, you can check every day and see if there's something that you want. And if there is, even if you can't afford it now, you can put it on layaway. And that basically just pins it, because normally the stock completely switches out each day. And if there's something you want, you can shift click it to put it in a layaway, and then say, all right, when I have $22.99 money, I'm gonna come and get that thing. And the purple ones are those are the rares versus.
Is blue magical? Are we going to Diablo now?
It's the same thing with WoW and all those. I'm always so bad with it. The greens are the uncommons. The blues are the.
I think blues are rares. Purples are like epics, right?
Yeah, sure.
We'll just go with that. Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to show off? I don't want to show too much from this, because every situation, I know it's so different. I mean, there's a factory mission that did just open up. We could attempt that, or we could.
I think that one thing that bears mentioning is that over there on the left in this city map view, if you look up at the top left corner, you've got your home command health, and you can see that on normal difficulty you've got 5 health total, and every time you lose a mission, not only do the robots still advance, but you don't get much loot, ouch, but also your HQ's health drops. On the highest difficulties, you only get 2 health, so you don't get many mulligans. When your health runs out, that's it, you're done, you've lost. And so that's how you actually lose the game if you're gonna. Losing one mission won't do it, but losing a few will do it. And if you lose enough, you can kind of slide backwards into oblivion anyway. You can also look, there's a salvage mission right there in the middle of the screen, right south of one of those barricades, and those ones allow you to repair your HQ if it's been damaged. So you can, get some health back if your HQ's been damaged and you're like, I need that health back. But again, the opportunity cost, if you're doing a salvage mission, you're not doing something else which might be potentially more bountiful for you. And so there's this give and take all over the place, and what you choose to do is going to vary by game and by situation if you wind up with some missteps, etc. The length of time it takes to play one of these missions really is going to vary. Once you're really experienced, you can get into quite a flow. I mean, you can complete a lot of these missions in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes max.
Sure.
And just zip through there. And parts customization, depending on how OCD you want to be about it, that can be pretty quick too. So, you can play through the whole game and a whole campaign of it in 3 or 4 hours if you're really experienced at it. If you're not so experienced at it, it can be 8-10 hours, something like that. Or more if you're like super OCD and like min-maxing everything, which is fine. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I get OCD about some games myself.
I think we all do.
Yeah, right. So I mean, it just depends on the particular game and how you feel about that particular game at the particular time. The replay value is obviously real high. We've got some alpha players that have put in 80 hours in the past month, which I was like, wow, that's
yeah.
Pretty intense amount of time there. But so that pretty much shows a lot of the generalities of the game. And the number of days, you can play it in as little as 30 days instead of 50 if you want to, because those robot command missions, they're really big, drawing a blank on the term, the satellite connections there.
Oh right,
those,
yeah. Those things.
The
robot command.
Yeah, exactly. Those let you advance it 5 days instead of just 1, and you get some legendary loot out of it if you win. If you don't win, it still advances 5 days. You don't get the legendary loot, and maybe you just messed yourself a little bit. So there's some
wow, risk reward right there.
Right. And if you're playing, regularly, then of course you can save scum and see, well, let's see if I can do this. Nope, it didn't. Let's load the save. If you're playing Iron Man, you're committed. If you do it, you win, you lose, whatever.
There's a lot to like about BIONIC DUES already, and I really do think that this is the best of all the games that I think you've taken all the good parts, you've really just collaborated with your team on really what makes something compelling to continuously play through. It's great. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I can't wait to really sink my teeth in this coming week. We'll definitely have a review for this game up on the website, leviathan.com. Chris, is there anything else that you'd like to say before we sign off here? It's available now on Steam, right, or your website?
Yep, on both. It'll be on Gamersgate and all that sort of stuff too. It is available within the next couple of hours anyway on Steam. It hasn't unlocked quite yet, but you can put it on your wish list, and I think it notifies you or something like that, and it'll be imminent within the next 3 hours. So.
Yep. Well, by the time this video goes up, if you're not watching right now, be up on our YouTube, you'll be able to get the game. About how much is it going to be, Chris?
It's $9.99, and you never know, there may be some launch discounts.
Launch discounts, some future Steam sales and such. Listen, it's really important that we commit a little bit of time and money to help indie studios like Arcen Games put out good works like this. Chris, I really appreciate you coming by and showing this game off. I can't wait to get this review up, and hopefully this game does well for you guys.
Thanks, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Alright, as always, guys, you can go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube with one of these videos. We like to try and make these things for the indie titles. We had one up for Expeditions Conquistador. It's got over 7,000 views right now. You guys really like to look to those kind of things, and hopefully we can do this with BIONIC DUES as well as Sanctum 2 and other fine indie works. So go ahead and give us a follow, and we we'll be back this coming week as typical. Chris, thank you again so much for showing up.
Cheers. Thanks.